this guy's not going to hit you a tenth as hard as I punch you in the face. He's like, you have nothing to be scared of. He's like, I punch you in the face, you don't fall down. He goes, this guy's, he's going to be in trouble. So I'm like, okay, that made me feel good, a little confidence. So
that's probably what he tells everybody.
Yeah,
you know, I'll punch you way harder. Let's see what happens.
What's going on, Sarasota? My name is Brad Hannon.
Trey Martell.
Felipe Colon.
And I'm sure you know this big, ogre-looking guy sitting across the table from me, the stud himself, MMA king and Flipping for Dummies CEO. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. That's
John Gettle, what's up, buddy?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing today?
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Offer handshake, love
yeah,
it.
There you go.
So if you haven't watched much of the podcast, we basically just joke about Felipe the whole time, but in between, we're going to talk about you and the things you do as well, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that seems to be the general line of the
Nah, we love it. We love it. So I want to start off talking about, like, your experience on reality TV. You were on, Flipping Wars, what was it?
Flip Wars. It was on A&E, we only did one season, but it was a lot of fun.
Still on a TV show, which is cool. How do you end up there?
My ex had a contact in New York, and out of the blue, they called us, and they're like, hey, we know you guys flip houses in Florida, so we're looking for another couple, a third couple for the show, and we need somebody like ASAP. We're like, okay.
So you said one season. What was the feedback on why they didn't renew?
I think it was the cost of the show because, you know, I think a lot of people have a misconception of how long a remodel takes. You know, they see it on all these, 20 days, we're in and out. You know, it's like, listen, get a permit in Sarasota City in 20 days. Good luck, buddy.
Good luck.
Yeah, you know. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, you can get express permits, but man, like when you're actually doing a heavy renovation, it's not a 20-day turnaround type of thing. And the show kind of undershot that. I think they didn't realize how much they were going to spend and how long it takes.
How did they compensate you guys at all? Or you guys?
Oh yeah, we got paid. It wasn't much. First season, you know, you get paid per episode. It wasn't a lot of money. We actually benefited the most from sponsors. So we would have someone come in. They would, you know, hey, showcase our product. We give us tiles. Showcase our cabinets. We get cabinets. So that sort of thing
brings your costs down essentially.
Bring our costs.
So you get product for your own flips,
right? Correct.
Because you were using the product on the show and they were showcasing.
Correct.
It. That's cool.
That was the biggest benefit. You know, like, for doing the show.
You should hire a videographer and just run it back on YouTube.
Right. Well,
do it on your own, right? But I would think that would also be risky because what I've always heard is these shows where they show you, like you said, the 20-day flip, they build the houses so poorly. And by the time they're done, it's, you know.
And John Gettle only does quality, so don't you start with that shit.
Exactly. And I don't typically do 20-day flips unless it's just like a lipstick in and out. You know,
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Oftentimes, reality TV ain't reality, right?
It's far from it a lot of times.
Well, that's what I want to know. How much of that show was legit? Like these were purchases you would have ordinarily made anyway. Like you were just going about your daily life essentially, and they're filming. Like it was reality TV for the most part.
Correct. I mean, I'd say 95% truth, you know? Yeah. So like the way auctions are held in Florida, for the most part, every county, not every county, but out of 63 counties in Florida, majority of them are on a online site. And the auctions, you click and you bid. So there's not really like in-person auctions. Like that's not really, you know, Stone Age.
For the show type
few
thing.
Counties, I think Key West still has auctions, you know, for their county. That's probably one of the few places that actually have like courthouse auctions. Yeah.
And then in the show, they did like a real auction.
They did, yeah. They had to do mock auctions because, you know, some of the houses we were buying at auction. Actually, one of the first flips we did buy at auction. The second one we actually bought just from a distressed seller. I think it was a probate deal, but we did mock auctions and, you know, to show like, because that's kind of how it works. But it's really clicking a button in the state of Florida anyway.
So when you guys are flipping houses in your industry, can you explain the different types of opportunities to have money once you get the house from the seller? So you find a distressed property, you can sign it and then sell it as wholesale, or you could flip it yourself, right?
Yes, that's something I want to touch base on. It's wholesaling is really what I've turned into majority. So wholesale's turned into majority of my business at this point because I can turn over a lot more properties, a lot less risk, a lot faster. So what happens? I find a distressed property, the sellers. They need to sell for whatever reason. There could be, you know, death in the family, foreclosure, I've had addictions. You know, people I need money now. I need money yesterday. So we get this property. I'll touch base on that later. I can elaborate on that a lot more.
I've never heard of that category of distressed real estate before. But,
it's one of the best, honestly, one of the best ones, to be honest. So not going to lie here. Wow. But so I find the property. Let's say I get the property for $200,000. We sign the contract. You agree to sell it to me. I'll close, 21 days, closing, $200,000. I'll then take it to one of my investors and say, hey, I have a really good deal. Sell it to you for $230,000. The guy goes, oh, wow, it's a really good deal for $230,000. Okay. Signs a secondary contract, assignment of contract, and he brings his $230,000 to closing. He gives the $200,000 passes through to the original seller, and I keep the $30,000 free and clear. No work. On to the next one.
And is that are we fixing up the house, or is that just
that's a straight wholesale.
Yeah.
That's a straight
He's basically transferring the contract to the next guy.
I'm selling the rights. I'm selling the rights to the contract.
And you don't have to put out capital, so that's where the brilliance of that is, right?
So actually that is the best part about it. There's basically zero risk.
Now let me ask you, do you ever have sellers fight you on that? They try to renege on the contract or anything. How does that work when you're passing it on to the investor?
Well, they don't really see it. I mean, it's a line item on the closing statement, and you can do like there's ways around it, but they don't. The sellers aren't really the ones that are going to complain. The buyer is the one that's going to complain, because I've had a few deals where we have over $100,000 fee.
Yeah,
and the buyer's like,
Wait a second.
I'm paying $350 and you paid $275.
My deal with you has nothing to do with my deal with them.
Right. So anytime there's a way I get around that, like with people, if we're going to have a large assignment fee, I'll do a completely separate contract. I'll set it up as a double closing, get a very large non-refundable deposit, and then at closing I'll say, hey, I'll give you $1,000 off. Will you sign this agreement at closing? We'll do an assignment. So they usually would take the $1,000 off, and then I shove the $100,000 fee down their throat. And, they're not so happy about it sometimes, but
yeah, it's business.
It is what it is.
But I mean, in a perfect world, you structure the deal so everybody feels like they're winning.
Well, they're
so you
making
probably
money.
don't do a lot of business with accountants.
It keeps your relationship with investors good too.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to keep the investors.
That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
you keep the investors happy.
They have to make money, because if they don't make money, they're not coming back. But
right.
I have a very solid. I mean, Brad knows some of my investors, and they buy 20, 30 houses a year from me consistently. And sometimes I make, $5-10 on a deal. Sometimes I make 50, 60 or more on a deal. And, as long as they're happy with the deal and they know they're going to make money, right. It's really none of their business what I'm making.
It's the give and take that makes a long-term business relationship work and things like this, I'm sure.
Exactly. So
some might say givers gain.
Givers do gain.
Trey loves that one. Yeah. Some may say win-win, I wanted to start with the TV show thing, though, because because that's sweet that you're on a TV show, but what really led to that was obviously some experience in doing it. They're not going to put some, Joe Schmo that's not, really doing at least decent at flipping houses. So what was the track record like prior to the show? Like how long had you been in it? Like what got you in it? What were you doing before it?
So, I've been in construction basically my entire life. My family has a pool business since 1985. So I've been in the construction industry. I understand it really well. 2015, I actually got my real estate license for basically the purpose of reselling houses that I was buying at the auction. Right. So I was going online, bidding on an auction, winning some. Obviously, I would try to find the cleanest houses I could find, or do the best due diligence I could when I was buying at the auction, because there's no warranties, no home inspections, but you don't really.
They're kind of sight unseen too, right?
All sight unseen.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big risk when you're doing that. I've made a couple of mistakes, but not many.
Right.
So I was doing that, and that's actually what got us the credibility to do the show.
And is that something that you got into just because it was like a big industry, or just like one deal popped up, you did the first deal, and you're like, hey, there's something here?
So, I started looking at auctions. A buddy of mine was buying stuff at auction, and he was showing me some of the deals, and he's like, hey, there's an opportunity. So I had a little bit of money and was like, hey, let's go. Let's put the money to work. We started doing it, and it was a success. I remember the first one I bought.
It's like crack, huh?
Probably worse than crack. I don't know. I don't know from experience, but yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's worse.
Why does everything always come back to crack on
Yeah,
this?
I don't know that I've ever brought it up
I
before.
think I have.
Makes sense.
He's just thinking about every show. Crack.
I mean, it's just so catchy to say. It's
I
so
love
good.
it.
Right.
But also, you had a buddy who, obviously every investor only has so much capacity, right? So your buddy saw a deal that was good, and he only had so much capacity, so he knew you had the ability to try it, and that's how you got hooked.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
How long ago? 2015. So
2015.
talking almost 10 years now.
Yep.
That's dope. And then before that, you were doing MMA, or during that, you were doing MMA?
So my last fight was actually October 13th of 2015.
Okay. Oh, so it basically that ended, and we went
I
into.
was about the same time. I was doing flips, and I had a fight, and that was kind of when I was like, well, man, I'm making a whole lot more money flipping houses,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
bet.
not getting punched in the face, and yeah, this is probably a better career.
How long were you doing the MMA stuff?
So I started, my first fight was in 2009, January 2009, and it was very addicting. That's probably more addicting than flipping, actually, because I went in there, I took a fight on last minute notice, I dropped like 15 pounds in 24 hours, made weight, went out there, and I put the guy in an armbar, won in 15 seconds.
Snapped his fucking
It
arm.
was a 15-second fight. It was over. I was like, and getting your hand raised in front of like 5,000 people, like it's an incredible feeling.
And they're chanting your name,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was incredible. It was an incredible feeling. I'm like, this is a high that I've never lived before, and it was cool.
How did you even get to the level where you were fighting in front of crowds like that? Because, from what I understand, MMA, it's a long haul. I mean, you start from zero, and
Right.
a lot of people don't make it to that point.
Well, at the time I was living in Vegas, or actually was in the process of moving to Vegas. I didn't know it yet, but I was spending time out there. A friend of mine was very close with Frank Mir, who was a UFC heavyweight champion. He kind of took me under his wing, and I was out there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and a fight came up, and I was like, hey, you want to fight? I'm like, well, I don't know.
Now?
And my coach, Ken Hahn, actually was Frank's coach at the time, and he's on the phone, he's like, hey, Gettle, you want to fight? And I'm like, well, when? He's like, Friday. I'm like, I don't know. He goes, yeah, he'll take it. I go, what the fuck did you just sign me up for? So I talked with Frank. I was like, Frank, I think it's a good idea. I'm like, I've never really done an MMA fight. I was really good at jiu-jitsu at the time, but my boxing was, if you've seen some of my fights, I try to break people's hands with my face. So not exactly the boxer. So Frank's like, dude, he goes, listen, this guy's not going to hit you a tenth as hard as I punch you in the face. He's like, you have nothing to be scared of. He's like, I punch you in the face, you don't fall down. He goes, this guy's, he's going to be in trouble. So I'm like, okay, that made me feel good, a little confidence. So
That's probably what he tells everybody. That's
Yeah.
I'll punch you way harder. Let's see what happens.
Well,
That's all you need.
Gotta
a
fill
little
that ticket,
confidence.
baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Little confidence.
That's all I need.
Now, was that a UFC fight, or was that like
Tough Enough?
Tough enough.
Tough
Okay.
Enough. Actually, a good friend of mine, Jeff Meyer, owns a Tough Enough. It's a pro-am show in Vegas. So really big promotion. Probably was the largest amateur. Now it's one of the feeder organizations for UFC. So
Right.
Cool. Did you have a nickname when you were fighting? like a stage name?
Stage name. They call me Little Richard, or Little Dick for short. No, they had no stage name, man. I was never into like the stage name.
I honestly think if you had a stage name, the career might have lasted
Yeah,
a little
lost
longer.
a little longer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe I should have been a little louder, talk a little
So,
more shit.
09 to 06, how many fights did you have?
09 to 15.
09 to 15.
Seven-
Yeah, what?
seven
09 backwards.
So,
09 to
06. Yeah, I was like, wait.
I meant to say 09 to 16, whatever. So 09 to 15.
I've fought 7 times. I've only lost once. So.
Okay. And all of those were by submission. All of those were by knockout.
All my wins were submissions or TKO.
Very cool.
So is that 7 fights in that amount of time? Is that standard? Is that fighting a little bit? Is it fighting a lot?
Well, there was 2 ACL replacements in between that period. I've had some injuries, and the injuries are really what killed.
That's what I was going to go to next. Is what was the worst injury, or how often were you injured? Because that's no joke.
I mean, God, I remember when I was like 25, 26 years old, I'd wake up in the morning, get out of bed, and I was training 3 times a day, but I'd get up out of bed, go to the bathroom, and when I'd step on my ankles, it would sound like I was walking on bubble wrap. I mean, click, 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 click. It was a click, 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 like you're going up a roller coaster. Click, 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 click. I'm like, man. And that's, once I got a little older, I was like, you know what? It's probably time to find something different.
Well, if you know you're not going to make the highest level of it, and even at the highest level, those guys, if they're not super promotable, they're not making, even the kind of money you're making flipping houses.
Not even close. Not even close. So, I know a lot of top UFC guys that probably don't even get close to what I make flipping houses. So it was just one of those things. I was like, you know what? Had a good run, had a lot of fun. Even if I did, fly off the charts all of a sudden, what's going to happen? You're getting your head beat in. The CTE stuff. Like what's going to happen? I want to be able to, retire and not shit myself, and you know what I mean. Like,
I mean, it's glamorized on TV, but any fighting sport's a tough life. I mean, you don't see a lot of boxers' kids going into boxing,
right?
Because they already have money and they already have a path, right?
Right. You see like the NFL guys. I mean, these guys have such a short lifespan. I mean, it ages you in dog years.
Yeah.
You're getting beat up every day. I mean,
Well, it really gives you. When you look at the pro athletes that last 15-year careers, because I was the same way after college. I'm like, man, I'm beat up. I don't understand how these guys go for 15 more years.
Right, it's crazy.
It's an anomaly.
And Trey didn't even play at the highest level in college either. It was JUCO, right? So.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you're still.
Wow, JUCO.
I know.
I'm way too smart for JUCO.
Patriot League All-Star, right? Come on.
Yeah. Well, that's all the stuff that brought you to now, right? And I understand now you're kind of working on a course. Like, what's the direction now with flipping houses and what you're doing, with flipping for dummies?
So we have a course that's coming out. It's called Flipping for Dummies. Basically, trying to teach people how to do what we do. We source deals for distressed properties, and we're trying to expand and teach people in other markets. Sarasota, Manatee County, these markets over here. I pretty much have pretty good hold on that, but we want to kind of expand, get some students outside. I have a few students that are California, a couple Orlando, and outside of that, East Coast of Florida. So we're kind of training them, teaching them how to find deals and source deals, and walking them through the process.
How's the money work with the business plan, as far as how do you make money for flipping for dummies?
So it's a paid mentorship. They're paying us up front to kind of give them a little skin in the game. Because I've had people, I've taught a lot of people how to do it, and for free, and a lot of times they don't take it seriously. They take up a lot of your time, and there's nothing in return. However, I've had a few people that I've just taught how to do it, and they're superstars. So we just do like a profit share. Typically, we find the deal, we do a joint venture, depending on what the deal comes back. Usually, they find the deal, I find the buyer, walk them through the process. We split it 50-50, first 5 deals. After that, it's kind of like they're on their own. If they want me to bring the buyers, which I typically will, we still do similar.
That's interesting. Right. So you solve a couple problems for yourself. Well, I perceive them as problems as an outsider in your business, right? You solve the capital problem, right? You're getting more people involved, so they're bringing capital.
Right.
And you're also solving the local knowledge problem, because you know this area, but if you want to do what you do in another area, you would have to have similar expertise there.
Right. It gets difficult, man. Like, because I do some wholesaling on the East Coast of Florida and some flips, but real estate's a very localized market. Like, you could go north 2 streets and the houses are $1 million, and then you go another 2 streets and they're $200,000. I mean, like, Florida's very weird like that. You can be on the water, especially North Sarasota, on the water.
Indian Beach.
You have $5 million houses, and then you go 27 streets and your house is $100K. Like it's in a matter of a tenth of a mile. So it's very localized, and you got to be careful when you're investing.
Especially you're buying them without seeing them.
That too. So usually if I do stuff outside of my market, I have to make sure the money's right. Like, go off a tax assessed value. If I'm buying it for less than tax assessed value, usually it's a pretty good indication it's safe. That's one of the things. But
you got to make sure you got a lot of cushion when you're dealing with the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah, I leave a little margin of error. So if I'm buying something sight unseen, when we say sight unseen though, when I get a property under contract, I usually have an inspection period. Yeah. Well, I have a due diligence period. Okay. So I can, I have, typically I'll do like 15 business days. So I have 21 days to figure it out. And I know within 21 days, because I have a very substantial buyer's list. I'll send that property out to them. And if I don't have something back within the first 24 hours, if somebody's not like, hey, I want to buy this property, there's a problem.
Right.
So that's part of the process.
So what you know, if the flipping is going well here, like what's the market like on the East Coast, California, Orlando? Is it all pretty similar? Like California, you know, totally other end of the country. So I imagine there's a lot of differences, but like if you're training people there and people are doing it, there's got to be opportunity.
Yeah, there's opportunity everywhere. I mean, there's people going through foreclosure all over the country. There's, you know, divorces, deaths in the families, drug use. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why these people we need to sell now. And, you know, it happens all over the country. I don't think that's not a localized issue, but it's definitely nice to have people with boots on the ground. So that way, if you have something outside of my wheelhouse, I have somebody that can go there and, hey, go through, take pictures, snap, you know. I've even paid Uber drivers, like on the east coast of Florida. So swear to God, I was on a phone. Someone called me. It was a mailer.
That's the way to get it done.
Yeah, someone called me on a mailer I'd sent out. I was in Lake Worth. And I was like, man, I don't want to drive. It's going to take 6 hours of my day, you know, 2.5, 3 hours each way. I'm like, man, I don't want to drive over there. So I'm like, wait a second. So I get on Uber, and I sent the guy, I'm like, pick me up from here to here. It was like a $15 ride. The guy gets there, and I text him and said, hey, man.
I'm not there.
I'm not here. I'm sending you $20 right now. Walk through the house, and I'll send you another $30. And he's like, okay. So then he literally took a bunch of pictures, video walkthrough, everything for it was $50 total. Oh, plus my $10 ride. So it was like $60. saved me a lot of time.
Somebody watching this is gonna use that.
That is honestly a major hack. That's actually a very.
Is that in your course?
Yeah,
it should be.
Chapter 2 and Flipping for Dummies.
Chapter 2. Yeah.
Hey, listen, we're having a blast here getting to know John Gettle from Flipping Wars. If you want to get to know him a little bit better, stay tuned for rapid fire questions fueled by food and beer.
Boom shakalaka.
I'm John Gettle, real estate investor, flippingfordummies.com, and this is Rapid Fire.
10 random questions. 10 specific answers. Nothing off limits. This is Rapid Fire, fueled by food and beer. Do you have a favorite musical artist?
Man, I like a lot of good music. I think growing up, Lil Wayne was like probably my favorite hip-hop artist. As far as old classic rock, I would say Jimi Hendrix.
We all loved grape nuts as a kid. What's your favorite cereal?
I don't know. I wasn't really a big cereal guy, but if I was going to eat cereal, it would be Lucky Charms.
Frosted Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious.
Pancakes or waffles?
Oh, pancakes. Red velvet pancakes to be specific. Yeah.
Honey mustard or queso?
Oh, queso.
Go-to drink of choice?
Hey, water.
Excellent choice.
Water's my go-to drink. I drink a lot of water. If I'm going to have alcohol in it, I would say Tito's soda, splash of cream.
What's your favorite quote from a movie or television show?
I would say, I don't know, Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not fucking leaving! In a zombie apocalypse, what's your weapon of choice?
50 BMG, Barrett Model 82, M109.
Show you how what's tactical turkey do.
Have you ever been mistaken for a celebrity, like Joey Fatone?
Actually, I have someone the other day asked me, they're like, you look a lot like Channing Tatum.
Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
I do, in fact, like pineapple on pizza.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Maybe I'm the first to admit it, but yeah, it's good.
Everyone's got red flags. What would your warning label be?
Don't push me.
Now on the edge, so don't push me.
All right, so we talked a little about the course and whatnot, like at a higher level. But what would and when is it coming out?
It should be out about the next 30 days.
Okay, next
I'm
month or
actually
so.
taking some students right now. They're just a little bit preliminary.
Right.
Kind of
So walk us through what one might expect that signs up for the course and what that's going to look like for the user.
So basically, we're going to show them the systems that we use, the things that the secret sauce we have. You know, we find these deals. You know, it's not really that easy to find off-market properties. These are distressed properties that are off market, untouched, not on the market. We show people how to find those, talk to people. Obviously, you can't teach sales 100%, but give them an idea of what you do, what to say, get the property under contract, and then help them find the buyer.
I mean, and from the sound of it, we're talking. Your producer over here said 45 videos already, and you're adding to it. So this is like, it's a pretty deep dive into everything you're doing.
Right. It's going to be. We have some very like on the job type of stuff. Boots on ground, walking up to sellers' houses. We're driving through a neighborhood. You see houses distressed. You're like, hey, let's knock on the door. Hey, let's send them a letter. Stuff like that. Just it's very hands on. Trying to show people, the ins and out of how we find these deals.
So we got to get to some story time. All right. I got to know. I mean, Felipe wants to hear the crackhead story. So why don't we start there? What's the best? What's the best?
Which one?
Well, I mean,
the best one.
Oh my God!
You described the different types of properties that you usually find, right?
I'm trying to think of.
That's not one I'm familiar with. Probate houses. I get that, right?
Personally, I want to hear the worst deal that you ever did. The one that like. Dang, I wish I wouldn't have bought this one, or the biggest pain in the ass.
Because I've seen some of your posts online when you get to some of these houses.
Oh man,
you've seen some of the a lot of times I post the
really bad
these really bad ones, just because and a lot of times I don't even buy those because they're out of their mind. They're not even on the same planet. It's worth land value minus what it would cost to demo the house, rip the whole thing down.
Right.
So, man, the worst one recently. God, I had one. I don't know how to say it too much, but it was a hoarder house, and it was bad. Like it was all time worst house I've ever seen. This guy's had no electricity and no water for over a year.
Living in it.
Not just him and his drug associates, I guess.
Where are they shitting?
That's a good question. Digging holes in the backyard, shitting in buckets, and dumping it in the holes.
Oh, wow.
And showering, I don't know, they would go to like a neighbor's house, fill up a bucket of water and shower with bro, it was bad. Like I wish I could have called like animal control on these people. It was bad. And there was like five, 6 people living there, pretty much in the garage. The house was like walking through trails, and you got to the back, it had a pool, and I use that term very loosely. They had drained all the water out. The pool had popped out of the ground. If you know, in Florida, it'll come right out of the ground because our water table is so high. And the entire pool was filled with garbage and trash. Like, just the entire thing. I'll show you a picture of it. It's just,
I've never seen anything like the episode, too.
And, dude,
that's rough.
It's bad.
So what do you even do when you have that situation?
Assign it to somebody else, let them do it. So it was actually a weird situation. The guy, they were obviously doing like drugs and stuff, but the guy was losing the house, going through foreclosure. There was, $30,000 code violation, all kinds of, there's just, a laundry list of issues with this one. And so we signed a contract. I'm getting ready to close. Come to find out, he signed another contract with somebody else at the same time. So this one, I didn't sign a memorandum of contract, which is something I typically do now. But I know to do it. It's just a pain in the ass. So if I'm closing fast, it usually doesn't matter. So I was like, all right, I'm going to close quick. So come to find out, this other person had a contract. So I talked to the other title company, said, no, look, mine predates that. But the other people really wanted the house. So I basically negotiated an agreement with them that I got paid $15,000. And he had to reduce his off $15,000 because her offer was like, $5 or $10,000 higher than mine. I'm like, listen, you're giving me $15,000 and I'll walk away. So she was going to close on the property. Well, she didn't really have the money to close on the property. So I'm like, okay. So now that I'm going to have to close on this thing again, you're going to have to release. And the lady's like, she was like, oh, I really want the house. I'm like, well, the guy has a mortgage on it. If you pay, how much money do you have? She's like, I got $100,000 cash. I'm like, okay. Well, the mortgage balance is like $60,000. I go, why don't, or I forget the exact numbers of it. I said, instead of buying an outright, take over his mortgage, which was like a 4% interest rate. I'm like, give him his cash to walk away. Give him his $40,000 to walk away.
And most importantly,
my $15,000. So she had $65,000 to come out of closing. She paid what was late on the mortgage, caught the mortgage up. Kept the mortgage in his name. This guy's never going to buy another house a day in his life. I mean, dude, the guy was on fucking Mars. The guy's, and so basically, I taught her how to do a subject to deal, which is that's a part of my course. Taking over somebody who has a distressed property, you can get entry to property.
So is that like an assignable mortgage in FHA that's assignable?
VAs are assignable.
VAs are assignable.
Assumable.
Assumable.
But it's a little different than that. So it's you know what? There's
Buy the course, Felipe.
Yeah, buy the
That's
course.
an interesting pro tip. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about
Here you
that.
go. Moral of the story is that your course will, I assume, help your students prevent getting in situations like this. And if they happen to get in a situation like that, you can help them make the best of it.
Correct. Yes, I'm going to be coaching them through the process, basically holding their hand through the whole process, make sure it goes smoothly or as smoothly as possible.
We'll call it flipping for Felipe's.
Wow, that's a good rhyme. So I'll give you that one. But it's interesting because to be transparent, you're creating a lot of value for these folks because you're only splitting the first 5 deals with them.
Right.
After that, they can take everything they got from the course and they can run out and do what they do. But then on the other side, you're creating, if they like the course and they're doing well, you're creating future customers because they're going to need investors and, on some of their deals.
They're going to need me for something.
Yeah, and you're going to be
likely
there and you're going to be able to get some value for yourself after the first 5 deals.
And I guarantee they're going to run into situations like I've run into and, like something like that. They're, oh my God, what do I do? There's another contract. There's this, that. And I'm like, okay, listen, calm down. Everything's fine.
This reminds me of the time that I was shitting in the backyard. This is how I handled it.
How many properties would you say you've flipped or consigned or whatever you want to call it at this point? Like overall career?
Overall career, probably close to 800, 1,000.
Wow.
Maybe more than that. We do average probably about 1 to 2 closings a week, and that's vacations and everything, and every now and then we had a dry spell where you don't have anything for a week or two, but yeah, average between probably one and 3 closings a week.
You ever get tired of dealing with these scumbags?
Oh, all the time. Oh my God, yeah. And honestly, I don't want to sound bad because like some of these people are great people. They're in a bad situation for whatever, and they have to sell. I mean, their house is going to go to auction tomorrow, and I'm like, dude, hold on, I had to go in there, cancel the auction at the county, and it's a whole process. I'm trying to help people out. I mean, not to. I help people. They're literally going to let their house go.
Right, so you're a lifeline.
Yeah, so they're letting their house go.
We all know how forgiving the banks are, right?
Well, what happens, and especially with an auction scenario, they go to auction, someone buys it at auction, you hire a sheriff, and they put a 24-hour notice on your door.
And they kick you out.
And they kick you out. So, like, if you don't get your stuff out of that house in 24 hours, it is no longer your stuff. So you lose everything. So that's one thing I help people with. I'm like, listen, we're going to buy it. I'm going to give you 2-3 weeks. You can still live here and move everything out in a timely fashion. I have covered trailers, or I'll hire a U-Haul or something, and I'll basically help them get their stuff out so they don't lose their possessions.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's you're no Mother Teresa or anything, but you're definitely I mean, you're better than the banks coming in and taking their house back.
Wait,
right?
Mother Teresa, the banks.
yeah.
John Gettle.
Right in the middle.
Hey, you got to get yours too, so it is what it is. But I mean, imagine 800 to 1,000 deals. You've had one negative transaction, like one that you didn't make money. Yeah, I mean, like I'll give you an example. Trey took the wrong roof off on a house one time. I think he probably broke even on that job. If he's lucky.
If you're lucky,
that would be
It was
like
a bank-owned property too. Those mother.
So that might be like the worst.
Gave the bank a free roof.
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't negotiating.
What a guy! What a guy! Yeah, appreciate that. And they gave you attaboy.
They gave me a no trespass.
Well, how can I put the roof back on?
Yeah. It's like the 8th roof I've done for them. This one was for free. No trespass me.
Buy 7, get 1 free. So he, that's a good example for him. But like, there's got to be one that you thought there was something there.
So I had a deal in Tampa, and it was pretty bad. I didn't want the deal. It was secondhand from another guy that does the same thing I do. I went up there and looked at it, and I was like, no, don't want it. A guy that was working for me at the time was like, I have a buyer for it, 100%. I'm like, okay, well, get a $5,000 check from him, non-refundable, deposit it, and then I'll send my $5,000 and lock this property up. I didn't want the property. The guy goes, yeah, I got a check. I said, okay, cool. So I literally wired over $5,000. Next day I said, hey, where's that check? He goes, oh, I got to go pick it up. I go, bro, you said you had the check.
Oh, no.
So, and trust, it was just a quick flip. We were going to make like $15,000, walk away from it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I threw my $5,000 out. So I'm like, shit. His buyer drives by and goes, no, I don't want it now. So now I'm stuck. Do I lose $5K or do I buy the house? So I run the comps again. I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting a pretty decent deal on it. And I kind of like justified it in my mind because it was like, walk away from $5,000. I'm like, I'm not losing $5,000.
Or you double
What's
down.
that term called?
Yeah, so I double.
It's a gambler's mentality, right?
Chasing
Something
bad
like
money.
that.
Chasing.
Chasing good money with bad or bad money with good. Or
I was putting good money after bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should have walked away. Looking back, I should have walked away from $5,000. So what I did is I'm like, okay, I closed on the property. And I thought, okay, this isn't going to be that bad. So, man, it's just, I put on MLS just as is, just trying to sell it just to get out, make a little something on it. Nothing. People would go show it. And then, dude, the neighborhood was so rough. It was North Ybor. The lock boxes were getting stolen off the front door. I'm telling you, dude, I went through, I lost.
Those things are $50 a piece.
No, the Supers are like $600, $700. So yeah, I lost one of those, and I fuck never again. There ain't nothing in the house I like worth $700.
Fucking zip tie the front door.
I went on Amazon and bought like a box of like 12 like cheap lock boxes, which I typically use. And so I'm like, okay, well, I got to hide it. So there was like an outside washer and dryer, and there was 2 units on the property. So I put it inside the dryer, thinking, hey, it's going to be safe. No one's going to know. And so the realtor says, hey, where do I go? Oh, go open up the dryer. Okay. So
put it on the spin cycle. Open the dryer.
2 days later, next realtor, hey, there's no lockbox. You've got to be
some of
kidding
those
me.
neighborhoods, they clock you, so they'll
watch.
They're watching.
There was someone, and that's what we figured out after.
Maybe we had a few realtors that needed some lockboxes.
Right. I went on Facebook Marketplace and bought a Supra for $50. After about 4 lockboxes, I was like, I was looking around like, who is watching me? Because they literally every time I clipped one on the chain link fence. Well, they cut the chain link fence and they pulled it up. Like, do they pull it? Every lockbox.
I just can't imagine what they're doing with these. Except
for what?
They're selling them for crack.
Realtors for crack, I guess.
They weren't even damaging the house. Like,
yeah.
I would come back there and there'd be like blunt wraps and like some paraphernalia and stuff. And I was like, what the fuck? So anyway, so this was an ongoing nightmare. And then every time a realtor would go show the property, their buyer was like, well, they stole the lockbox, so I don't want this house. They stole the lockbox. So it was a hard sell. So finally, this went on for months, and finally I get a buyer who has rentals in the area, and he's like, I'll buy it. And I'm just like, listen, I was taking at that point, like a $45,000 loss, and I'm like, just fucking buy it. Like, I don't care. So he agrees on everything. I think I was losing actually like 49, close to 50 grand. Like, okay, so we agree to it. I'm at the gym on Sunday. I get a phone call. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? He goes, hey, man, we're closing tomorrow. I did a walkthrough, but there's people living in this house. I said, get the fuck out of here. What do you mean there's people? I'm on my way.
The guys that stole the lockbox, they moved in. So
I drive up to Tampa. There's a guy, his girlfriend, and like a 2-year-old living in this house. Man. And I'm like, dude, they're like, yeah, we signed a contract with this guy named Jeff. I said, who the fuck's Jeff? I'm like, what do you mean you signed a contract? Let me see. And they showed me a lease. And I'm like, dude, that's the owner's name on this lease. The address is right, but look up who owns this house. It's not him. This is not who owns the house. Like, this is the company that owns this house is completely different. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, dude, I gave him $3,000. I gave him $3,000 to move in. Now we're in. And he's like,
your problems, not my what I mean? Like,
well, but here's the thing, it's civil. So, I even called the police. I'm like, listen, man, I said, I'm not a fan of cops. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, I want to call the cops on you. No. So I'm like, listen, we're going to call. You're going to report this because this was a fraud on your part, but I need to have a report of this, and, you're going to have to move. So the cops come there, and they're like, yeah, this is civil. This guy him and his wife can stay here. He has a lease. I can't make him leave. And I'm like, well, dude, it's my property. It's not my lease.
It's not even a real lease.
I'm like, he goes, it's civil. You got to go in front of a judge. And I'm like, so I'm already losing $50K in this place. And I'm like, dude, listen, man, how much you get? $3,000? I go, so yeah, he goes, yeah, I've been calling the guy to come fix stuff, and he won't answer my phone calls anymore. Well, yeah, because he doesn't own the house.
And who's taking the fucking lockboxes?
Yeah, I'm like, how many lockboxes do you have in your car? Open your trunk now. So anyway, I'm like, listen, man, I feel bad for you. I'm like, I'll give you $2,000 if you can get out by Monday. He goes, absolutely. So we signed an agreement. I gave him another $2,000.
To push it over 50.
It needed the shove. Needed the little shove I needed to get it past 50. And I was like, gosh.
I actually had a similar situation.
Is that in your course?
No, dude, that's what
needs to be. It needs to be in your course under the what not to do section, though, for real. Don't chase bad money with good money or whatever the saying is.
Good money with
after
bad
bad.
money.
Anyways, go Trey.
I had a similar situation recently. I bought a property and we're going to build on it, and there's currently a house on it. And I showed up because I had a bunch of my guys on a slow day. I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to clear this crap out from the hoarder I bought it from, then rip up some carpet and small stuff like that. I pulled up and there's a U-Haul in the driveway. I'm like, whoa, hey.
At least you caught it in time.
Yeah, well, I got there. She's fully moved in. You got some guys.
Oh, moving in, not moving out.
Yeah, these people moved into my house randomly, and they're like, oh, somebody gave me, rented it from Facebook.
Yep.
The guy sitting, but this guy's, no kids, thankfully, but man sitting on the porch, with a liquor bottle in his hand at like 9 a.m. Woke him up. What the fuck are you doing here? And then we have some floozy in the house with blue hair. Then she locked it down. She changed the locks. Cops are there. She won't open the door. They break my door down, and they slammed the shit out of her onto the floor and took her to jail.
What?
Yeah.
Was it Sarasota County?
It was Sarasota County.
Yeah, we're not as nice to people. Hillsborough is a little more liberal.
They
they're-
banned her.
say it was
She
civil?
did not have a lease.
Well, and honestly,
Sign.
in Hillsborough
Yeah, it was a
County,
Facebook deal.
in Hillsborough County, they'd be mad at you for assuming her pronouns of she with blue hair.
Well, honest-
I mean, you should be careful.
I mean, I just wanted her to open the door. She wouldn't open the door.
Right.
So then they had to break my door down. I'm paying for that crap. Then she
Why is this
had
the first I'm hearing about this?
Yeah, right.
yeah, this is-
I sent you videos. Please.
Did you? Oh.
You didn't send me the videos.
Morgan sent the videos, but yeah, it was
That's
crazy. And
nuts.
it's just a big pain.
And that's
in
a
my
good
butt.
neighborhood
Oh,
too.
yeah.
This is not a bad neighborhood.
I got-
where's
you
it
know?
at?
I got a lot in DeSoto Acres, like 2.3
Oh.
acres. Yeah, I've been talking to you
that's-
about that for years.
Oh, did you get that one?
I got one, yeah.
Dude, this guy
Oh,
does
yeah.
one flip a week.
Oh, I told him.
He's got a lot of
no,
stuff going on.
I've looked at stuff and I've actually contacted. Remember one a few years back?
Yeah.
I contacted the people and they're just they're they're like I don't think it ever went to foreclosure. I think they remedied it, but
I'll take more in DeSoto Acres, whatever you
me
got.
too. Well, me too. If I get one in DeSoto Acres, I'm keeping it.
I looked at a house there with my parents, and we were poking around. Supposedly, Hulk Hogan's ex-wife owned it previously.
Really?
That's
DeSoto
that's what I heard.
Welcome to the hood.
It's a great neighborhood. Just saying.
Well, speaking of DeSoto Acres in Sarasota, base
You know
question
Terminator
here
Law.
for you.
You know Terminator Law. Terminator Law wants to know, what are your thoughts on roundabouts? Do you love them or do you hate them?
Oh man, I think they're great for Gary and roundabouts are the worst.
Terminator.
They're great for Tom and Sorry, probably take that out because I love Tom and we're doing Tom. Go again.
He said the same
Go
thing.
again.
it's good.
Go
He
again.
said the
Go
same
again.
thing.
Go again.
Tom said the exact same thing.
Tom said, well, I have a unique perspective on this situation.
Well,
Trust me, Tom says enough on his own podcast. You're okay.
Oh, right,
You're
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I actually introduced you to Tom back.
I knew him, but I didn't know what he did
Yeah.
specifically. And
Yeah.
then he told me he was class level 3 in Exactimate, and that's what really got me.
Yeah.
So you didn't fully answer though. Do you love him or do you hate him?
Oh, I hate him. I hate him.
And why?
I see if people knew how to use them correctly, they would work. And a lot of them need to be bigger because here's the thing. When you're pulling a 30, 40-foot boat to 10th Street, they're a little bit of a pain in the ass. Your trail, I'm taking up 2 lanes, and people just don't understand. They're like, why can't you stay in 1 lane? Well, I have a freaking 40-foot trailer behind me. Like, what do you think I'm doing, So they work great if people were, like, educated to know how to use them. They need to make them a little bit bigger if they're going to do them here. But they're actually great for personal injury guys and attorneys and auto body shops and stuff like that.
Now, the 10th Street comment, we haven't had anybody say that specifically on here yet. And that's a good point because that's a huge point for commercial boat traffic and recreational boat traffic. I mean,
Right.
a lot of people travel
So
their
you
boats.
want
there's
us
plenty of
to
roundabouts on the way.
cater
Right.
our roads to all the rich people with boats?
Well, some
there's a
of
lot
them
of-
are working people running businesses.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Come on now.
charter captains going out
But I
there.
mean,
taking-
it doesn't make sense. They redesigned that whole damn boat ramp,
Right.
and they make the roundabout in front of it small.
Oh, you know what's worse is they're actually charging people to park there coming up.
I heard
I
about
did hear
that.
that.
People
Yeah,
are
so,
not
I
happy.
I thought they were fighting that though.
Well, I know Eric was trying to fight it.
Somebody was,
but like, we got a couple good people and they're ready to fight. It's just what are we doing, man? We're nickel and diming everything,
Well, the parking downtown's bad enough. I got a $250 handicap ticket the other day, and I was there I was in that spot for 3 minutes. I wasn't parking. I was
That's
just
3 minutes
actively
too many,
loading and
you know?
unloading.
I
but-
actually got a handicap pass, so I'm good. I went into the DMV. I'm like, hey, I got back with my ex like twice, and they're like, oh my god, you need this.
you
They
showed
stand
him,
retard right beforehand.
Yeah, they're like, you can park wherever you want, sir.
showed him the cauliflower ear, and that qualified you.
They heard the ankles cracking when you walked in, and they were like,
Yeah,
give this man a pass.
Well, listen, you've been around Sarasota for a long time, and so I know you know some great people, a lot of people. Felipe's got another question.
So the last question we always ask, and you've seen the podcast before, so you probably know what I'm getting at, is you see what we do here, you're just on Sarasota SpeaX. Who else does Sarasota needs to know? Maybe somebody who you know.
Who needs to know?
Actually, I have,
who Sarasota doesn't, or we might not.
I'm actually glad you asked that question. I have somebody that I'm going to be talking to about coming on. He has one of the largest aluminum companies in the state of Florida, 3 offices. I know he's builds about 5,000, 6,000 pool cages a year.
Wow.
Has the patent that you need to build in for hurricane.
Oh yeah, you were
code.
telling me about this.
Yeah, so I mean, he's basically started from. I mean, the guy started from absolutely nothing, like from absolutely nothing, and built a $200 million company.
And from the sound of it, anytime anybody builds a pool cage in the state of Florida, for it to pass hurricane inspection, they have to use his
his design, his patent. So yeah, he's actually a really brilliant guy, great businessman. One of my investors. I do a lot of deals with
He
him.
lives here?
Yeah, lives
Awesome.
in Sarasota.
See, that's great. See, that's somebody who you wouldn't think lives here, but they do.
Yeah, he's a massive company actually in Sarasota.
And I love how he didn't give the name, so the viewers now are wondering. We'll let you know who it is when he comes on, right?
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks for coming on. It was a blast. Good to see you.
Brad. Trey.
Thanks, John. Great time.
Hey, thanks, guys.